So, I was at GDC, I saw the announcement, I went to their booth and tried it, and this is a much bigger deal than I expected. Is this the next big thing in gaming for sure? You read the title, you kinda know where this is going. I am very excited about the potential this holds, but I also have concerns and worries. For those still unfamiliar with what the heck is going on, Google announced Stadia, a cloud gaming platform that promises to run games on almost any PC, smart TV, or phone by running the game on a server and streaming the video footage to your screen over the internet. The promise is smooth and instant gaming on any internet-connected device. That part does not impress me very much, and if you have been following this channel for a while, it probably does not impress you as well. There's a variety of existing niche services that already do this, and I have explored a lot of them in previous videos. Some of them work really well. Nvidia even has one. It's still on beta testing for PC, but if you have a beta key, it works. And yet, Google does a number of things differently to all of those attempts. So after talking to some of the people in the Google booth and trying this for myself and talking to a lot of developers, there are some things about the service that sound and feel very good, but some of it does not. Let us discuss some of the most notorious elements in a convenient YouTube-friendly format. Let's start with what I like. Lots of progress on reducing parts of the latency. The big Achilles heel of this concept is always latency. Since the game footage has to get to you and the controller inputs has to get from you to the server, it is inevitable that there's always going to be an extra latency from input to action on cloud gaming. This latency is always going to depend on mainly three elements: encoding overhead, or the amount of time it takes to encode and decode the video feed or the controller inputs, physical distance from the server running the game, and the quality of the internet infrastructure in general, especially the part that is closer to the final user. Google has been putting a lot of resources for improving the encoding and transmission techniques. They already have a ton of experience in video transmission from things like YouTube. There's a ton of technology they're developing for not just improving the base latency, but in general improving the feel of the quality of the service in a variety of different connections. One of the first game developers they're working with is id Games, and as explained on a talk by id developer Dustin Land at GDC, they wanted to use the extreme speed and motion of Doom as a test to make sure that the experience will work even on the most intense games. Heck, the one piece of hardware they announced is a controller, one that connects directly to Wi-Fi rather than a PC or a TV, in order to remove one step in the process of getting those inputs to the server, which is part of that larger effort to reduce latency. Google already has an enormous number of server farms worldwide, which makes them one of the few companies that can really provide servers that are close enough to a lot of people to be able to do this effectively. And the third point, the Worrisome, the last line of the connection, still kinda sucks. Google uses very ambitious language for Stadia and the number of people they want to reach. But even in developed countries, like the ones in the launch list, the internet conditions might not be enough for this to become mainstream. Consider the following. I tried a good chunk of the GDC Stadia demo running on a Chromebook. Some of the sessions by Google commented that these demos were running on a server about 50 miles away. But this is a convention demo, and it is fair to say that Google put some care that the connection was good, so this is as ideal as test circumstances get. And the latency hit was similar to what I get using Shadow at home, and any artifacting as a result of the video compression was very similar as well. This is a good thing, it's very manageable. But later that day, I saw the first live demo of Doom Eternal running on Stadia. And again, this was under ideal conditions, and yet there were a fair number of frame skips. How will this do with someone who does not have fiber internet? Heck, what about data consumption? I talked to a lot of people in GDC, and the dominant topic was data caps. Even in Google's own home turf of the US, a lot of people have connections with data limits that might not make them possible to use something like this currently. Which means that Google might have to do a lot of political work just for this to pick up its critical user base on its home country. And on the sessions on GDC, Google made it clear that they're working on technological solutions that will make this work very well in a variety of connections, but I'm not sure if this is something they can do much without a strong improvement in overall global internet infrastructure. I might be wrong. This is a chicken and egg problem in the sense that this might create a demand for better internet, but not enough people might use this because of the lack of better internet. In fact, they have not yet disclosed any minimum connection requirements for this thing, but given the requirements of existing services, well, it might be hard. But that leads to the bad, the first line of release countries. Oh yes, if you know me, you knew I was going to bring this up. One of the big points in the marketing message of this service is how it can open the world of gaming to tons of new users. Some of the faster growing gaming markets, where consoles are not a good option, are countries where Google might have the data centers to pull this off, but are not included in the initial release. Where is India? Where is South America? It might get there if the service is successful. This might be just a test run, but can the service be successful in the first place when all the countries already have a lot of good, cheap local gaming options? I'm not sure. The Worrisome. This is an entirely new platform to develop for. I'm going to be honest, when there were rumors about this thing, I expected Stadia to be games running on PC and being streamed back, like Parsec or Shadow. It is not. It is based on Linux, the Ubuntu kernel in fact according to the GDC talks, with an undisclosed custom CPU and a custom AMD GPU, but it does not immediately run any existing game. The developer must port their games to Stadia, which again, Dustin Land from Eat Games described as something between the dev process of a PC and a console at the GDC session that I attended. A side note, since the OS of Stadia is Linux, Dustin Land did comment that the first step of porting a game there was to make a Linux version, and for testing they had 2016's Doom running on Ubuntu, but fully acknowledged that Linux desktop adoption is not nearly big enough for this to be something other than a Stadia demo. I have expressed before the ideological reasons why I would like gaming on Linux to pick up speed, and it is killing me that there's a Doom and Doom Eternal Linux executable somewhere in an Eat Games server that we will never play with. Okay, side note over. Back to the issue at hand. Stadia is like an entirely new console, starting from zero rather than a PC. From the developer perspective, that means yet another platform to port and test games, which requires money and time investment and might mean that a lot of games might not be available ever. From a consumer perspective, it means that it might be difficult to justify buying the thing when there are few games on it. Another worrisome thing, YouTube integration. The idea on paper is really good. Games will have the ability to integrate chat actions while a creator streams, so all your incessant spamming will finally actually do something. Please stop spamming my chat. Will developers go through the pain of implementing this on existing games when it is a feature unique to the service? No idea. It might take a while. And there's also stuff like viewers having the option to immediately start playing a game if they see it on a video. Hey, you know what kinda sucks right now? YouTube monetization. Do you know what would be interesting? What if donations from viewers allow people to affect the game? Or that if someone starts playing a game after seeing your video, the creator gets a tiny bit of the money out of the interaction. Evidently, I'm all up for ideas on better ways to monetizing content that is not purely advertising, but I am kinda annoyed that they have not provided more details on how this is going to work to any YouTuber. Well, except MadPat, apparently. But given how often YouTube introduces a new feature which has unexpected effects, I can't help but be a bit skeptical of how this is going to be implemented. The bad. Where's the pricing? Not only do we not know how much this is going to cost, but there's no mention of the overall pricing model. Is this going to be a subscription service? Do you have to buy the games? Both? How is revenue going to be shared with the developers? Running a cloud gaming service is expensive. This is why existing services like Shadow or Parsec experiment with their pricing, and if the whole selling point is making games accessible to more people, a high price point will make it difficult. So there's a chance they bankroll the whole thing and provide the service at a loss with the hopes of creating value long term or through harvesting data, which is kinda what they did with YouTube or might still be doing, no one knows, which leads perfectly to my next point. The Worrisome. This is Google that we're talking about. I understand this is a bit rich coming from a creator on a Google-owned platform, but big tech companies in general have been under a lot of scrutiny over the way privacy and data harvesting is managed. So the thought of giving another part of your life to Google completely can be a red flag for some, even if it means a cheaper alternative. We will have to wait. With so little precious information and actual implementation of the system, one has to wonder the following. The bad. Who is this for? Who is the target consumer for the service? With all the Twitter backlash at the announcement of the service, there's one thing that I think we are easily forgetting. Stadia is not to be a replacement for PC gaming, and it is likely not a product for power users of PC gaming, just like consoles. A lot of the features that these power users like from PC are not accessible from Stadia, as people like to point out, but literally the same case can be made for game consoles. Now, for PC gamers that only care about playing the game with no customization and console gamers more interested in a plug-and-play convenience experience, Stadia starts making a bit more sense. But a sector of those gamers are going to be too concerned about latency or game ownership for cloud gaming in general to make sense. So, look at it this way. Here we have the power users that care so much about customization, latency, or game ownership that they will never consider cloud gaming. Here we have the people who are either in markets or circumstances where consoles and components are so expensive who could actually benefit from cloud gaming, but either have bad internet, data caps, or live outside the very specific support area. Here in the middle, we have the potential user, who really just wants to play the game and does not care enough to buy a dedicated console or build a PC. Which is fine, this is not a condemnation, just enjoy your games your way. But they have internet that is good enough and they are in a supported country. Who exactly is this market? It's very hard to tell, and will be determined ultimately by how this thing is priced, which again, we don't know. So look, I have tried my fair share of cloud gaming on this channel and I dig it. I personally use Shadow when I play on my TV out of pure convenience, even though I am not sure I'm the target consumer for it. And part of me is excited to see a big company give an early shake at this concept. I am worried about the details that we're missing for it, such as the whole pricing model and the very slim country release list, or the YouTube integration. But I think it could be transformative for a lot of people who want to do more gaming but just do not want a console or want to build a PC. Now the real question is that a specific crowd big enough to sustain a service this big? Or are the limits in internet infrastructure on developing countries and the US bad enough that it is still too early for something like this to become mainstream and just will remain a niche service? We will find out. I am 99% sure that at best, it will be another option in the growing ecosystem of how to play games. I will be the first one in line to try this out when it comes out in Spain, that is for sure, even though the lack of pricing makes me wonder if this is going to be too expensive for me. You know which streaming service is not too expensive though? Curiosity Stream. No, seriously, it's like $3 a month for some of the coolest content out there. Curiosity Stream is this video sponsor and a superb streaming service for documentaries and over 2,400 pieces of content for all sorts of topics. For example, I keep complaining that the biggest barrier for Google Stadia is internet infrastructure, and yet it might just be a matter of time. This documentary on the birth of the internet shows how we use technology that was meant to create communications over nuclear attacks and combine it with a network of connected universities to basically create something that is robust enough to download games or stream documentaries, which by the way you can do on your PC, phone, TV or any device. Also, if you want to support LowSpecGamer, you can use curiositystream.com/LowSpecGamer or the code LowSpecGamer to get the first 30 days free. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video and you for watching.